Hey, author Adam Bray here, and happy Juneteenth. And of course, Juneteenth is the new federal holiday, but it's the day when commemorating when news of the emancipation of slavery reached Galveston, Texas, and the slaves there were able to go free. And I think it's very important for the stories of black ancestors to be told who experienced slavery. Of course, I'm not black, and I don't have any black ancestors that I know of. I've got Native American ancestors, so I wouldn't be surprised if I found out I had black ancestors as well, but none that I know of. But I think it's also important to tell the stories of white ancestors during this period to get a full context of the history. So I wanted to share my family stories because my family has remembered a lot of these things from our family's past, and they're relevant to my family today, and I think they're relevant to people observing the holiday. So I have an ancestor. His name is Colonel David Palmer. He is not a blood ancestor, but he adopted my great grandfather and his brother when their father died, and they were basically kind of orphaned. Their mother was still alive, but I think she was not able to take care of them. But he was such a the Colonel David Palmer was such a godly man, such a kind man, and had such a big impact on my family. This is my great. He would be my great grandfather, but we still remember him now and honor him, as our ancestor. So he was a colonel in for the North, fighting against the Confederacy in the Civil War. He fought at many battles, was wounded, severely wounded at 3 shot. The first one he was shot, left for dead on the battlefield. And he laid there for several days. He'd been shot in the chest. And the story my family that's been passed down is that there were maggots crawling in the wound, eating out the rot. He was found alive but captured by the Confederates in the South, and kept a prisoner for several days. And then there was a battle and he managed to escape. But so he was wounded in 2 other subsequent battles. But after the war, he was honored for his service. He had a horse named Jack. My uncle has a painting of the horse still at his house. And Colonel David Palmer rode Jack, leading the Grand Army of the Republic down Pennsylvania Avenue in a parade. I don't understand military very well, but I guess he led the Grand Army of the Republic for a year. I think this was after the war. So, an ancestor that, shed his blood to fight slavery, to fight the South. But he's remembered because, as I said, when my great grandfather died, he basically left 2 orphan kids, and so Colonel David Palmer took them in as his own sons, adopted them, and when he died, he left his estate to them. His land and property, and a lot of his possessions are still in my family. Different family members have them. But anyway, so because of that, my great father, his name was Schuyler. He named his son David Palmer after him, after Colonel Palmer. That was my great-grandfather. Then my grandfather was named David Palmer. My uncle was named David Palmer, and my cousin's middle name is David. So maybe if I have kids, I'll name one David, because I think it's pretty cool to remember this. But known as a very kind, very godly Christian man, became a senator in Iowa in the state legislature. But so that's the one ancestor. Then another, well, Schuyler, his adopted son, my great-great-grandfather, her family, her brother built the farm that they lived on, and it was part of the Underground Railroad that helped to helped slaves who'd run away to escape to the north. And so her family had built this farm and had helped freed slaves. But also on my mom's other side of the family farm, and this is all out in Washington, Iowa. This is where all this happened. The other family farm was also part of the Underground Railroad, helping slaves, escaped slaves, get to the north, to freedom and to safety. I had another family member, another ancestor. Her husband fought in the Civil War. Their family were the Lindsays. He was killed fighting the South, died. So his best friend was a medic. His name was Aquila, and Aquila Lindsay, I believe. He was a medic, and he was the one that attended to him. So he went to inform the widow, my ancestor, that her husband had died. When he did, afterwards they fell in love, and they got married, and so they're my ancestors. But so I've got this heritage in my family of people that fought against slavery and fought against the South. And when my mother was in high school, because my mom grew up in Korea, they were missionaries in South Korea. When they came back on furlough and she was in high school, she sat in I think the park in the middle of town in Washington, Iowa, and this old black lady came and sat down next to her on the park bench, and they got to talking. My mom told her who she was, and this old black woman said, "Ah, I know your family. I know your grandfather, and I know your great-grandfather, Schuyler Livingston, who was the son of this Colonel Palmer in fought for the North in the Civil War." Because she said he was a lawyer, and he was. And she said, when my family, this black lady, when I was young, we were very, very poor, and we had a lot of legal trouble. We were in bad trouble. We were completely destitute. We were going to lose our home, and we had a lot of problems. And we got a knock on the door one day, and it was your great-grandfather, the Schuyler Livingston. And he said, "Ma'am, I don't want you to worry. I've taken care of all of your legal issues, and they're all gone now, and you're going to be okay, and I'm looking out for you. I'm going to take care of you and your family." And so this black woman said, that her family has always remembered this and always been eternally grateful. So I say all these things not because it's not to toot my own horn, and it's not to say I'm great, because I didn't do these things. These are my ancestors. But I think it's important to remember their stories, and important to see the past of this Civil War period, of this Juneteenth period, to see it in the full context, and to know what our ancestors did, on the black ancestors and white ancestors, and what the context of our country and the communities and the people who, fought in these wars and bled and died. Because a lot of what's going on now in our country in the past year and a couple years, there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of racial politics, and I think a lot of it is designed to get black people and white people to hate each other. It's not designed to produce equality. It's not designed to bring peace or healing or bring our society together or bring justice. It is designed to get people to hate each other. And we're not telling an accurate history. We're telling a very selective history. Some of it is just abject ignorance, but some of it is intentional dishonesty, leaving out, the stories of what happened, what people did, all the details, these anecdotes, these personal stories, these family stories. They're important to remember and important to tell, and important to give context. So I think we need to hear the black stories of the slavery and the suffering, and how they fought and they escaped, and how they lived on after slavery. But it's important to retell what people from my heritage did as well, to get an honest and accurate picture, and to build the future forward. So happy Juneteenth, and enjoy the weekend, and let's all remember together.